Why Ingrid? She has nothing to do with I'll Remember.
But 1994, can you think of a time where we didn't see Ingrid with Madonna?
I blame Ingrid for so much.
But you know what's interesting is like, that's because Chris Ciccone planted that in our heads because Ingrid says something totally different. This is
where
all
did
good.
You get, last question I want to ask before we actually start this. Where are you getting these icon letters? Are they online somewhere?
I just like Googled Madonna 1994. What did I put in? I think I just put in Madonna 1994 and it was one of the things that popped up. And I was like, oh my God, that's such a great capture of her summer that she was sort of out of the spotlight.
And working away.
Yeah, she's like, I thought I'd be on vacation, but there's so much to do. All right, here we go.
All right. This is Mark.
And this is Kenny.
And this is All I Want to Do is talk about Madonna.
I'll remember.
Welcome to season 3, Kenny.
Oh my gosh, Mark. Thank you. Welcome as well. Here we are. We made it through the wilderness of season 2, which was an epic season.
Lots of shadows.
And fog.
Yeah.
Here we are. Here we are still. We're in the darkness, but we're coming into the light in 94.
We're finding a way towards the light.
Well, this is what this whole season is about. It's about this moving from a sort of a very dark place into a place of light, right? We're going 1994 to 1998. And if all you Madonna fans out there know what 1998 means and where we end, it's, I think, a really interesting and I think a very transitional time.
Lots of changes, lots of switching up of things, new friends, new management. Carice Henry is now around, her personal assistant, who's a big part of her the next 15 years, and a lot of new things, new homes, a dog.
Freddie DeMann is leaving the picture.
Yeah,
a baby is coming.
Yeah,
so
relationships,
a Golden Globe.
All kinds of things are happening. So it's going to be a really fun season. I'll remember.
This is actually a really beautiful song that I love and always will stop and listen to when it comes on.
And not the game-changing transformation everyone feels like it is. I feel like it's very in line with many of the other ballads that Madonna has made. This feels like a big sister or a direct descendant to Live to Tell. The last time she stripped down, sat still, and sang a beautiful song.
I mean, 100%. In fact, I would even push back even further to it's not as bombastic as Crazy for You, but it's a pop ballad.
Yeah.
And it's also like she goes back to her tried and true for this, Pat Leonard, along with
Richard Page from Mr. Mister, which was an interesting turn for Madonna.
These broken wings,
which is a great pop song. That's a beautiful yearning pop song. Broken Wings is a glorious slice of 80s
and so is
nugget.
Kyrie.
But Pat Leonard and Richard Page wrote the song initially, and then Madonna rewrote it, wrote the lyrics, did all kinds of things to it when they finally sat her down and played it. And this is from obviously the With Honors soundtrack.
With Honors is the movie directed by Alec Kashishian, technically his film debut as a film director, right?
Yeah,
he had
like a motion narrative
picture.
film. Yeah,
a major motion picture, as they used to say.
But before we dive too deep into I'll Remember, let's see what else Madonna's been up to since she ended the Girly Show tour at the end of 1993. Dangerous Games has obviously come and gone, and she's hanging out.
She said, in interviews, she said, "Oh, I'm just going to take some time off," which we know is not true totally. But she was sort of like, I'm going to step out of the spotlight, for some time. Which had already been happening in 93, was seemed to be when she meant taking time off, she meant going to a lot of basketball games.
I always imagine that Madonna on New Year's got the nose piercing, and that Madonna is now like, okay, the nose piercing is a sign of a new chapter, and I'm going to do some things differently in 1994.
Do you think the nose piercing was real?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I think it was real. Until it wasn't. She took it out. It grew in.
If you get a nose piercing, does it heal after, or is there always a?
No, it's cartilage, so it heals back up.
Unlike your ear.
No, your ear can heal up too.
Really? See, this is as little I know about piercings.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan either of it.
Do you have piercings?
I have no piercings, and I never even. This was one of those times when Madonna did something. I was like, I don't need to do that.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But she has no tattoo. Well, now she has the tattoos, but I have tattoos. So
you do?
I do.
Oh, I do know that.
Yeah, I have two.
Yeah, right.
And so I think that there was a lot of adjusting for Madonna, because she's ostensibly taking some time off, stepping out of the spotlight, not promoting anything, not doing anything. And yet the media is still on her like glue and writing lots of derogatory articles and mentions and all kinds of stuff about her dating life, about who she's being spotted with, about her predilection towards basketball players and athletes. And because she's not in quote unquote business mode of like promoting a product, I think it really rattled her and realized, oh, they're going to, at a time I want to take a step back and not have all the attention on me, and I'm consciously trying to do that, I don't have the control to stop the press from continuing to obsess about it. And I think that kind of reaches ahead. She's basically off for 3 months, and they're still kind of writing articles, and she's in Page Six a lot, and they're still making, nasty jokes about the sex book and things like that. It all kind of reaches ahead in March when she decides to go on the Letterman show.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's totally right. I think, first of all, we're moving into a period where the paparazzi is starting to get a little nastier, right? We're only a couple of years away from Princess Diana.
Yes.
And I think we're in the swirl is getting worse. And here we have a woman who actually really loves to go out and be social. And she's also, I don't know if you'll agree, she's looking for her baby daddy.
Yeah.
She's identifying that maybe professional athlete may be the way to go, right?
It's a good gene pool to dive into. I mean, if I was a 35-year-old woman with lots of money, I would totally be like, I want somebody who can, contribute to this, what I've got going on.
Right.
But she's spending a lot more time in Miami. She bought a house down in Miami. So she's spending a lot more time there instead of LA or New York, where there's so much else going on. So she's a lot more noticeable when she's out and about in Miami than she was, say, in New York or LA. So that's also contributing to it. It's just like, and I mean, I don't know many instances of Madonna going to basketball games and sporting events before this. So she's also we're seeing Madonna in new places. It's like in The Next Best Thing when she's in the grocery store. It's like, I've never seen Madonna in a grocery store, nor she's in a grocery store. So it's the same kind of thing. It's like, not only is she out of New York City, but she's also in arenas, not performing.
Right.
Just watching things.
Yeah.
And that's weird and random too.
It is weird and random, like that she suddenly takes up basketball. But again, I think she's there because she's like, tick tock, tick tock. Also, by the way, when David Letterman's like, have you ever been to a market before? And she's like, yes, I've been. Let's
talk about David Letterman. So David Letterman in 1994 is at this really interesting time. His show is now, it's no longer this subversive alternate to the Tonight Show that it was in the 80s. And one of the great things about Letterman during that time in the 80s was he could have random people on who don't have anything to promote or publicize. And that's slowly but surely changing. And I think already in 1994, there's this sense that he is going to be the heir to Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson has just left the Tonight. He's just retired. So there's this weird kind of time where in the 5 or 6 years before this, they've been really kind of pushing Letterman up to being a more mainstream option. So there are a lot that, and he had guests like, obviously legendarily Sandra Bernhard, Terry Garr, people who were just delightful people that he wanted to hang out with night to night. Charles Grodin is the guest for the second night, for the night after Madonna is on. And, but just to kind of give you a sense of where we're at, the Counting Crows are going to make their TV debut after Madonna that night. So like, it's definitely a much more commercial show than it had been in the decade past. And obviously Madonna had been on the show in 1988 with Sandra Bernhard. And also, Sonny and Cher had reunited on the show during the late 80s. That legendarily last performance they ever did together was on Letterman's show. So he's definitely like a cool power player who's becoming less cool and more mainstream as we get further down the line. And he's about to make the jump probably in the next 5 years. He moves to CBS and becomes this other show, completely other show, with none of the old guests, none of the weird people that he had on the show. So he's right at this pivotal time where I think Madonna goes on the show thinking she can be subversive and underground and edgy, and that's just not the format anymore of his show.
I actually disagree with that, meaning I think the way you're positioning Letterman is absolutely correct. And she even references this. You've gotten soft. Money's made you soft,
Success has made you soft. Yeah.
Right. But I think that she comes on, she's annoyed, with him. And she comes on, and this is what I meant about like, what was the timing of this exactly? Because she's coming on, well, she doesn't promote anything. And yet she actually probably was there to promote I'll Remember and With Honors, right? Because that song came out. She goes on the show. That song came out 2 weeks earlier. The week after, it's gonna show up on the pop charts at 35. It's sort of making its ascent. And so she's sort of there for that. But they never talk about that. And I think it gets derailed because she's like, she also wants to show all these clips of how he's been disparaging her over the last year or so, and that she's upset about it. She hands him the panties when she comes in. It's like, take my panties, motherfucker. Like she is there to disrupt. I don't think she's there thinking that he'll go with it. I think she knows that she's about to cause a problem. I don't think that she realizes how hard it's going to be, but watching it back, my sense is that she went on to go fuck with him and that she may have thought he would have been more game, but she also didn't care, meaning like she was there to be like, stop fucking with me. This is offensive, she never said that directly, but that was like, when I watched it back, I thought she's in pain. She's expressing harm. If this were today, this is how this conversation would go. Like, you have harmed me. and this is what I need, I need you to change, or I'm fuck you back, And then when the audience starts to turn on her, she's my favorite Madonna, which is like, all right, motherfuckers, let's all fight, And you know what I mean?
I mean, I do, but it's a very uncomfortable interview and weird. They're both, it never gets quite as dirty as I think you think it does. She giggles throughout the whole thing. She makes lame jokes that don't land. Letterman just seems to, it's his turf. He's prepared for what she's bringing. He's got the retorts to come back. He's got that guy in the audience she won't kiss. He's got the elderly couple that from Applewood, Wisconsin, that so he has these other ammos that he can use to kind of diffuse it. And well, I think the moment, the most telling moment is when he tells her people don't want to hear that at 11:30 in their homes, on a Tuesday night or whatever. I'm paraphrasing what he says. And he sounds like an old fogey in that moment.
Absolutely. I mean, that is the moment, and the audience applauds. And that is the moment where I feel like if there was ever a moment where we could track where someone, becomes the man, like that was the moment, because it was embarrassing for me to watch, because it was such a moralistic thing. And it was saying for the first time, and this is to your point about how he had changed, like it became so aware. He was so aware of who his audience was. This is obviously information given to him by the network about who's your audience and what they want to hear and what they don't want to hear. And that she was like, I have no doubt that she was coached beforehand about these limits as well. And she's like, fuck that 14 times. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And she does lose this, I believe. I don't believe if we were to say like who won this, like she does not win in the moment. Over time, I think it's a win for her. But like to me, when I was watching it, there's that, he's in his chair, he's higher than her, right? Which Sandra Bernhard had pointed out in some time years earlier, where she's like, oh, your chair is higher than the guest's chair, right?
Yeah.
And so he's higher than her because he's also taller too. He's leering over her, which reminded me of, this is traumatic for me to even think about, of the Trump-Clinton debates, of him like sort of leering over Clinton while she's talking. It reminded me of that. And that to me was like, she's not only fighting Letterman in this moment, she is fighting the patriarchy.
No, let's just get back to you.
Okay, fine. First of all, you're not irritated at all. You're not irritated at all. I know
you're
this is a little...
You're not irritating me.
Okay, good.
Are you trying to?
No, I'm not trying to irritate you.
Actually, you do irritate me sometimes.
Well, you kind of irritate me too.
Really?
You see, we have so much in common.
I know. Why are you always... I brought something to, like, make a point.
All right, okay, good.
You are always fucking with me on the show. You are always fucking with me on the show. You are always fucking with me on the show. Where is that thing?
See what you're doing? Do you see what you're doing? Now there. You see?
What?
A nice where are you folks from? Yeah, Appleton, Wisconsin. Look, they drove all the way. They came in an Avis car and they wanted to see...
please? Let's get to the tape. I brought a tape to prove that he's obsessed with me.
All right, so you think that we refer to you far too much on the show?
Yeah.
All right, roll the tape, Hal. Let's see what she's talking about here. As luck would have it, I look up and there's Madonna.
There she was.
Riding her bicycle. Hal, roll my home videotape of Madonna. Watch this. This is very impressive. Look, there she is. Okay, stop it. All right.
What's that all about?
But now, can you do that? Don't you have a problem with chafing when you're out there like that?
My ass looks a lot better than that.
Are you enjoying that smoke there?
It's just the right size.
What do you, now when you leave here tonight, what are you going to do? Are you going to go out? You're going to go
Don't fuck with me, Dave.
Oh, Jesus. Please.
Wait, aren't there any other segments? That's it?
Do we have more tape for Madonna? Sounds
I
to
like
me,
the way you say my name.
it sounds to me like somebody might be with
somebody
you.
fucked up. It's okay.
I want to thank you folks for coming in for this run-through show. Thank you very much. This, of course, will never see the light of day. You won't miss a thing tonight. You have a top 10 list, I'm told.
Yeah, I'm sitting on it.
You're sitting on it. Oh, are we going to do the list? Yes. I heard Morty over there weaseling. First he said, no. And then I said, are we going to do the list? And he said, sure.
There seems to be a lot of confusion right now.
Yeah, guess why?
Is it because I've been saying fuck?
You can't.
Speak the truth and shame the devil, baby.
No, you can't be coming on here. This is American television. You can't be talking like that. Now we're going to have to.
Why?
Well, because people don't want that in their own homes at 11:30 at night.
They don't? Wait a minute.
Yeah! Yes, sir!
Wait a minute. People don't want to hear the word fuck.
Oh, stop it! Will you stop? Ladies and gentlemen, turn down your volume. Turn the volume down immediately. She can't be stopped. There's something wrong with her.
What do people think? There's definitely something wrong with me.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here. Anyways, what?
We have to do another commercial.
I don't think we should.
No, we're going to do one.
I think we should break the rules tonight.
I'm calling the shots. We're doing another commercial.
Break the rules.
We'll be right back.
The body language is fascinating for both of them. She's constantly readjusting the dress and her arms and stuff. It's a very weird kind of performance thing. And you're right. He is very desperately trying to keep control of the situation. Yeah. I think that they definitely came in with a plan, both sides, and it quickly derails because I think he introduces her in a very sexist way.
Yeah, and Paul Schaefer calls him out on too. And it's like, this is your guest. This is your guest. And you're saying this nasty stuff about her before she walks out.
Exactly. And so I think that any kind of game plan that they had, I think was ripped up in that moment as she's standing there back there. And I think it's also, again, the culmination of a year and a half of kind of kicking. And I think that ironically, at the end of 1993, once the tour is over, any kind of creative triumph she was feeling about erotica, the sex book, blah, 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 is the tour, is all kind of fading away. And all she's now left with is kind of this aggressive noise about her personal life, which has nothing to do ostensibly in her view with the art. And I wonder why they don't bring up I'll Remember, because she's just made a great pop song that's going to be a huge hit for her. Why aren't they talking about it? And I also wonder if part of the frustration is she's just made this very, not straight-laced, but very commercial, very, it's an adult contemporary number one for her. It's her fifth one or fourth one. And nobody wants to talk about that. They only want to talk about the sensational parts of her life.
That's right.
And that's I think part of the frustration.
Can I just go back? Because I think I have an answer as to why. Hold on to that question. I have an answer to why I think the two things. It's the two things. The song and the persona are two different things, and she, in a way, is allowing the Madonna persona that is identified with the erotica era to crash and burn. She's allowing it.
Yeah.
She's allowing it to be just a hot fucking mess and just destroy it. Mm-hmm. And in the same moment, she's reinventing herself and saying, we're going to go softer. It's happening at the exact same moment that she's creating this other trajectory, which is what she actually rides into bedtime stories, you know? And so I kind of think it's weird that they don't talk about the song, but in a way, this wasn't about the music. This was about her persona. She was coming on. I don't think this is conscious at all. Okay. But if I were to think of it as storytelling, I would say she's coming on to destroy the world of Erotica and Dita, destroy
and
it.
Turn the page and turn the page on it.
It's a total turn the page, you know, and this is jumping ahead a little bit when we think about the video, which is not one of my favorite videos, but what's interesting in the video is the multiple Madonnas. And then there's the Madonna who's in the business suit, who's like, this is all calculated. And that we see, this persona outside of the one who's making the video is observing, like, this is the image I want you to see now. And so I kind of feel like those two things were happening. Like if we were to think of it in a very, calculated way, that this was a plan. Of course it's not.
I think there was a plan. I think there was a plan that because of the external circumstances and the emotion of it and her emotion of it, it got derailed. Because when Madonna has a plan and sticks to it, she executes quite brilliantly. Yeah. When she allows herself to get emotionally rattled by it, which I think she does here, it goes off the rails really quickly. She tries to be funny. She always tries to be funny when she's uncomfortable.
I think she's funny though.
She's not funny.
She's funny.
When she rips up the top 10 list, I'm like, come on, Madonna, play along a little bit.
But that made me feel sad. That made me sad because I think in that moment she felt like she couldn't win. You know, she was in a bad place in that moment. That wasn't a funny moment to me. That was like she sort of didn't know what to do. She was at a loss, you know.
Well, and yet she won't leave.
That cracks me up. But she does.
She knows she's sinking and she won't leave. It's
she's like, you can go to commercial. I'm going to still be here, but then she isn't, which also makes me really sad.
She is not. And I wound up being a big fan in college of the Counting Crows. So I was really like, why are these counting? I remember when I watched this episode because I taped it.
Of course.
I taped it because I wasn't allowed to stay up so late. And
oh my gosh. Yeah, you're still a teen. I keep forgetting that. Well, I guess I'm still a teen too, but I'm much older. No, I'm not. I'm like in my 20s by this point.
The appearance was a huge ratings bonanza for them. And I think that regardless of what everyone kind of the narrative of the time of Madonna hijacking the show, sources leaked how crazy it was before it aired that night. So people were definitely watching because they tape it earlier in the day. So people knew and they broadcasted. It wasn't like Madonna had, hijacked his show live.
Right.
And that's an important thing to remember too.
I just want to point to the moment. This is a future Madonna thing too, of like, she's like, we're not living in the present right now. We're living in the future. This isn't even the real time. And he's like, that's very deep, Madonna. But this is literally the things that Madonna is starting to think about, So anyway, I think that it's interesting. I do find it fascinating that there's this really aggressive, brash performance of persona at the same time as there is this one of the softest, kindest, most generous songs of her career is released.
I agree. I think to move away from the Letterman, because, she returns to Letterman many, many times over the next decade. So, the feud ends at the MTV Music Awards in September. So, I think now I would be very interested to see how people would view it today, that appearance and what it after, seeing all of everything that's come after that, how people would look at it differently and the reaction to it, because a year later she was still talking about defending it and talking about, all of the different reactions to it. And I think, but I do think that she also used it to, as kind of like a litmus test for how she rolled out bedtime stories. And she was like, okay, now I see where the culture is. And this is how we're going to do this with bedtime stories. I'll Remember is just a stunning song. And I think Alex Kashishian had asked Madonna if he would contribute to With Honors, the movie With Honors, which stars Academy Award winner Joe Pesci for Goodfellas, and Brendan Fraser, and up and coming Hollywood people at the time, Brendan Fraser, Josh Hamilton, the indie star and theater actor who's still treading the boards and playing dads now, which shocks me. Patrick Dempsey, right between Can't Buy Me Love and the Grey's Anatomy resurgence in the aughts, and my goddess Moira Kelly from The Cutting Edge and from the Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me movie, playing Donna Hayward. They're all in this movie with Joe Pesci. He's a homeless man living in the bowels of a university. Brendan Fraser breaks his foot and is writing a thesis that gets burned. Have you seen this movie?
No.
Well, I mean, it's a really bad movie. It did not do well critically. I think it made $20 million. The soundtrack, though, is full. Besides Madonna, it's full of like people like Candlebox, who was on Maverick, Belly, Kristen Hirsch and Michael Stipe have a song on it. The Pretenders have the worst cover of Forever Young. It's just a crazy, it's a crazy little hodgepodge of music. And Al Remembers the lead single, and also Pat Leonard did the scoring for it, so that dun, 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 is in the movie a lot too. So it actually is worth it to see how they use the theme over and over and over again in the movie.
It's the lead single, but is it really the only single?
It's the single. There's a single.
Yeah. And, I think it's just, I had no need to see the film. The song didn't make me want to see it, nor did the clips in the video of the song make me need to see this film, regardless of, I don't have a connection to any of those actors as you seem to have. Like Moira Kelly didn't really do anything for me. Brendan Fraser, I could care less about. Joe Pesci, I think, is fine. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's not a sexy idea. And it makes me sad for Alec Keshishian, who, like, that was the movie he chose to do.
I don't think he chose to do it. I think that he had a deal and they gave him a bunch of scripts, and this was the best one that he could do. Mm-hmm. And it probably had Pesci already attached.
I see.
Because that's how it goes.
That's how it goes. Okay.
The song is just beautiful, though, and it really it's kind of, it's a song. It's Madonna yearning and finding, my favorite line is, "I learned to let go of the illusion that we can possess." I love that line about shedding. It's about moving forward. It's just so the lyrics are just beautiful about remember, and in some ways it's akin to In This Life too. It's about moving forward, looking ahead, optimism, while holding on to the memories, but not letting them define you. It's very Madonna 1994.
It is. I mean, you mentioned that this is part of the bridge that, and I also think the next part of the bridge is even more beautiful. I learned to let go and travel in stillness. I mean, this points us to, again, which we believe this whole season is about. This is a season about her dawning of spirituality. And this is sort of the first glimpse of her thinking about, what does stillness mean? What is silence? What does it mean to travel through time?
I remember I learned to let go of the illusion that we can possess. I learned to let go and travel in stillness.
I love this song too. I think when it came out, I remember making a mixtape. It was this for me because I got a job at a summer theater in Vermont as a stage manager, which FYI is I clearly have never done again. And I have one little story about that, but like I made this tape, mixtape. It was the first song on the side A of the mixtape because I was driving from Miami to Vermont.
Oh, wow. This is such a good first song.
In my cabriolet convertible. And I would just play this and I would sing it, as I was driving. I would just rewind and sing it over and over again as if I had been through something that I needed to remember, somehow it made me think that I had this past with this story.
Did you play it on the drive back from Vermont after this experience?
That's a good question. I don't remember. So much happened that summer. I had my first real love affair.
Oh.
I actually ended up quitting the job because I was a terrible stage manager and because
really?
This is not a job for me. This is why, Mark, I'm just going to tell you this really fast. Okay, that I had fallen in love with this guy who was the lead in Oklahoma.
Kenny.
And so at the beginning of Act 2 starts with Farmer and the Cowman should be friends.
Were you the stage manager of this production too?
Yes. So I was running the lights.
Interest.
I was running the lights and the sound. I had to call it, and I had just made out with him at the intermission, and I was all frazzled. And I got up into the booth and I called places, and then I was thinking about kissing him and making out later and doing other things, and I forgot to turn the lights on. To call because I had to do it as all manual. And it's a big dance number. And so the actors are out there dancing in the dark and they banged into each other and one person fell and hurt themselves. And then I remembered to flip the lights on. Everybody was in disarray. And I quit. I quit that night. I was like, I'm not meant for this job. I couldn't that was just such a fail. And I was like, I hated the job anyway. But anyway, I'll remember.
Oh God.
My summer.
I do. Annie was like this bitch.
Oh my God. But that summer it was we did Nonsense 2, Oklahoma, Annie, and the Fantastics. It was the worst summer stock cheesy place ever.
I always think about the audiences of those shows. You get a subscription to that season, right? The whiplash that you must feel emotionally with seeing Oklahoma and Annie back to back, I think would kill me.
Oh my God. Oh, and I forgot Chicago. That was their Effie show.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. That's the hit. That was the hit show.
Of course. So sexy.
So sexy. That's beautiful because I love how on the Something to Remember compilation, you get that new song. I Want You is almost the overture to the album, and then I'll Remember's kicks in, and you're like, okay, now we start the show.
Yes. It is. It's a great opening. It's a song I wish she would do live,
Yeah, she never did it live. And it was a huge success. I mean, it was a huge hit for her. It kind of filled that gap between Rain, Bye Bye Baby really didn't do anything. And then Until Secret kind of came out in the early fall of 1994. And this was a summer song. I mean, I think it was a hit all through the summer of 1994.
It was one of the most played songs of 1994.
Yeah. It was nominated for a Golden Globe. Yep. It was not, it was nominated for a Grammy. It was a really, and I think it showed Madonna, I think, how regardless of her impulses, playing by the numbers and by the book can be creatively fulfilling, and she can get a lot of credibility success.
Absolutely. And this was again a format she had used prior in a different way, meaning she did the same exact thing 2 years earlier with This Used to Be My Playground. Okay.
Yeah.
Drop a single in the spring for an album that will come out in the fall,
that'll have nothing to do, because there's nothing about I'll Remember other than I think some of the emotional content of it that goes with the sound of bedtime stories. You had no idea what the new, because this was so different.
It's like a cleaning the slate. It's like,
it was so different from erotica, but you also, it laid no groundwork for bedtime stories other than how she was feeling emotionally.
Totally.
Let's talk about the remixes for this. I remember when the remixes came out, I was very kind of disappointed in them. They felt like Rescue Me remixes in this weird way, but going back, they're really beautiful. Some of them are like the Gorilla Beach remix is just, I think it's a William Orbit mix.
Yeah. Well, there's only 2 mixes and they're both by William Orbit.
Yeah. I love the Gorilla and it's long and it takes its time. There's that spaciousness that's about to come in electronic music that's coming. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, William Orbit has entered the Madonna world in Justify My Love times, right? And so he's sort of been around. But yeah, when I listened back to the Gorilla mix, which I actually remember loving very much at the time and thinking, because I loved that kind of expansive kind of music, and that when I listen to it now, I'm like, oh my God, it is all the sounds from Ray of Light. Like it's that at the very beginning, like if we just listen to a clip of it, it could be right from Ray of Light, or even the Drowned World Tour, like opening, like those sounds.
Yeah.
Say goodbye. Not knowing when. The truth in my whole life began. Say goodbye. Not knowing how.
I feel like in her remixes, she's always exploring a sound that becomes like part of the next sound.
Yeah.
A lot of the remixes from erotica, the ones that you pointed to, like Waiting, have this really R&B hip hop sound that becomes the sound of 1994 bedtime stories.
Yeah,
you know?
she's trying. I mean, it's kind of like being in a fitting room. She's in a sonic fitting room and she's trying on different clothes to see how they fit. And she may take them off for now, but she's like, let's put that on the rack and come back to it. I also think that a lot happened between 1994 and 1997 when she started Ray of Light, that she could kind of pick and choose parts of it that she was really liking. And because there were parts of electronica that she didn't like, and she wanted to kind of pull in the emotional. There was a coldness and a kind of like, and she wanted to really infuse those songs with emotion and vulnerability and her usual stuff. And I'll Remember is that kind of, and those mixes are just so, I just remember the expansiveness of them. They felt so spacious.
Yeah. I mean, the other one, which is more like, is basically the song, and William Orbit just strips it down a little bit and puts in a different kind of beat, is it's sort of the way that I feel like the Rain single is sort of mixed a little, it's a much simpler remix, but it's not an extended mix.
No.
But I think they're both really lovely looking back. And I think if there had been more, or like, a dance mix, it would have been strange.
Yeah. And
so I think they're right.
Yeah. The video, this is probably one of my least favorite Madonna videos. And I remember at the time, because I don't think I saw the video until after the Letterman performance. So I had already seen the kind of the hair and the look. But I felt like it was very, I mean, the sad part of it is it's very akin to Rain. And
yeah, that's a big conversation people have about this video, how much it's similar to Rain. And I think a lot of that's conscious, right?
Mm-hmm.
I also do want to point out, this is the second Alec Kashishian video, the first being This Used to Be My Playground, another soundtrack song. And he's just not good at this. I mean, let's just.
He's really not good at incorporating the clips because like you said about With Honors, there's nothing about those clips that say anything about the movie.
And nothing that makes me want to see it.
And there's nothing also about the film in that video. It's very much like the Who's That Girl video. There's nothing like she's not on a college campus singing the song.
How dare you bring that video up?
But do you know what I mean? Like it's like she wants to do this like Japanese weird interesting like video, and they're on a college campus in New England, and so they're not connected in any way.
No, well, she's in the well. I always think the story of the video is, though it makes no sense, is that she's in the studio where they're doing the overdubs, and they're watching the clips, and I guess she's watching the clips as if she's being inspired by them to sing this song because she's always looking up at them. And the only things I would highlight in this video that I think are interesting are she looks beautiful, but not as beautiful as in the Rain video. It's a rip of that. I think that necklace she wears in some of the scenes is crazy and beautiful. I tried to look up where the necklace is from or who it is. I guess that there would be somebody out there who's listening who knows who made that necklace, because the necklace is crazy and it's beautiful. It's not she has two outfits. She has one where she's wearing the necklace and one where she's not, and she's in sort of like a gown or something.
Yeah.
And I just think that angle of that Madonna's watching herself and sort of maneuvering this is interesting, though not fully fleshed out, as a narrative, but again, points to this. There's the woman on the outside who's the man part of her who's in control, and then the woman at the center of it. The other thing I just wanted to point to in the video that I think is strange is the moment that the two backup singers arrive who are nobody.
Who are those women? I am like, I'm just like, who are these bland? Where are Nikki and Donna?
Well, they're not
even on the song. They're not on the song.
It's all her. And so it's like, why do you have these women there? And it annoys me. Going back to the song for a second, and maybe I'll switch this around. Going back to the song for a second, one of my favorite parts of the song is when she just hums. And this goes back to something that's going to come more and more up, and we've referenced before, but it's those moments where Madonna just is like not saying words, but singing us the melody or humming us the melody that are just so beautiful and so Madonna. And it is when, I'm guessing that wasn't something Richard Page had put into the song, that this is a true Madonna edition, because it's so her to just be like, And this is something she builds on a lot in Bedtime Stories, which we don't realize until later, but that there's a lot of that in, especially in the first single in Survivor.
Well, and I think,
in Secret.
Well, and I think that the that kind of wordless humming anchors the song as a Madonna song. Mm-hmm. And I think that as we go forward, there's a lot more songs where you can like hold on to that, even if the song is doing all kinds of other things. And, Frozen has that hugely. Yes. That I heard that. I'm like, what the hell is this? But the oohs, that's what there's Madonna. There's Madonna.
That's such a smart thing to say, because there's a great clip of Richard Page singing the song and talking about it. I don't know if you've seen it, where he sings it with a guitar, which obviously is how it started, and he sounds great on it. But it sounds just like a regular pop song, but there's something that happens when Madonna does it, and I think that's part of that thing that becomes a Madonna song.
Yeah. And I think, I like to believe, because, we were talking before about when she wrote it, when she worked on the song, how quickly, because, it's ready to go and released by early 94, basically. And it was released in March. And then the video also came out in March. So it had to have been recorded and ready to, the movie came out in April. So it had to have been recorded maybe during the tour of Girly Show, or right before she went on tour with Girly Show. And I just love the idea that Madonna is moving forward and recording and making something so vulnerable and true to what after all the role playing and the personas of erotica, we get this very Madonna. This is Madonna.
Yep.
I love that.
I love it too.
Till next time.